Okay, hello and welcome. So this will be a video on just how to play Pokemon trading card game, really. It's, in case you don't know how to play, I'll have this video, so, you can watch that. So, let's begin. So, I think I'll start by going over just generally how to play the game. Well, yeah, how to win and the basic concepts, and then I'll go into the how to play. I'll be going based off an old manual for the game, just to decide which order I'll start describing stuff in. So, the trading card game is. The goal is to either take 6 cards called prize cards, or just take out all of your opponent's Pokemon. I'll go into more detail on that when it comes up. So, there are 11 types of energy. Now, I don't have each one on hand. Well, there aren't 11, I don't think, anymore. I'm looking at quite an outdated manual, but there's, off the top of my head, there's grass, fire, water, lightning, psychic, fighting, darkness, metal, dragon, and colorless. I'll go over some of them, any of them that might need specific description. Also, actually, wait, there is dragon, but anyway. No. So, there are a few parts to a Pokemon card. There's the name, there's the stage they're in. If applicable, there's evolution, there's the Pokemon it evolves from, there's the type, there's the HP, there's the expansion that they're from, and there's like a collector card number. There's a lot of now, there's also other types of cards, which would be trainer cards. Now, these have the card name, the type of trainer card they are, the card type, just a text box to describe different things, and then the rule of the trainer rule, which it depends on which type of trainer card it is. Now, I'll go into more detail on those when they are applicable. What's next? The most important cards are Pokemon, obviously. Okay, so important cards. This is Hops Rockety would be a basic, as you can see by this text here. This means that the first evolution, and the one that you can place on the bench, and it'll usually be one of the first that you'll find. So eventually you can evolve a basic into its stage 1. Stage 1 here, it says which Pokemon it evolved from. Now as you can see, they'll have different moves, and they'll usually be more powerful the higher up in the evolutions, but they'll require more energy, usually, so, it balances it out. Then there are stage 2s. Stage 2s are often stage 1s, and you'll need to evolve that stage 1 from a basic, because you can't place a stage 1 down if it's not evolved, obviously, So, Corviknight, for example, it now has other new moves, and as you can see here, now that's obvious. The next type of card is energy cards. Now, energy, they're what let you do moves. Like, most of the time, a Pokemon cannot attack without an energy card. You need to match the symbols, but if a card has this symbol, this little star, it means it's a colorless and it can use any energy. For example, Shoot Through on Corviknight requires 1 of any energy, but with this it requires 2 metal energies and a colorless, so anything. Now, Now. Next is trainer cards. Trainer cards are slightly different. You use them, you place them down to use once, with one exception I'll describe later. This is an item, but there are items, supporters, and stadiums which are the exception of when placing them down once. Now, they'll do different things. For example, this, it has its effect if you want to read it, but all you need to know is that you can play item cards whenever you want in your turn. You can play one supporter per turn, and stadiums, they are different from them, and I'll describe them in more detail, hopefully, if I don't forget. Now, if I set up a game, there are, actually, yeah, I'll cut to the thing, so let me just do that. Now, in terms of a game, so if I just quickly put this here, so we'll put now. Let's simulate the game a moment. So, let's go through a few things. Now, I've had to shrink down the space to fit on the screen, but that's fine. So this is the active spot. It's, I'll show a diagram on screen, but it's the Pokemon you put at the front, and it's the Pokemon that is, as it suggests, active. So, then there's the bench. You can put up to 5 Pokemon here. I put 3. Basic EXs is something I'll go over later on. But on the bench, Pokemon can't attack, but you can attach energy and things to them. I'll go over a turn in a little bit as well. So, if we look, this is the deck, and these are prize cards. There would be 6 of them in a normal game. There'll be 6 of them in a normal game, and then the cards you need to draw in order to win. You draw 1 per Pokemon you knock out, and if you knock out an EX, you draw 2. More details later. The discard pile is usually under the deck, and it's just anytime you have to discard a card, you put it in the discard pile. Now, there are... what else is there to talk about? So, in terms of playing the game, there's a few things. So, to win the game, you either take all of your prize cards, knock out all your opponent's in-play Pokemon, or at the start of a turn, if your opponent has no cards in their deck, then you win. Set up to play. Now, it says here shake hands with the opponent. I don't always do this, but I think it is just a common thing that's supposed to happen, but it's not really enforced. You flip a coin or roll a dice. I prefer to roll a dice, but, your choice. And whoever wins, so you choose heads or tails. Let's say you chose tails and you flipped and landed tails. You then get to choose whether or not you go first or second. Now the general smart decision is to go second, just because you can do more things then. Anyway, once you've decided who's going first and second, you shuffle your decks. They are the exactly 60 card deck, and you draw the top 7 cards. So if I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you have to check if you have any basic Pokemon in your hand. So you have to put one of your at least put one of your basic Pokemon down in the active spot. And then you can put as many, up to 5 basic Pokemon, other basic Pokemon on the bench, but you have to have a Pokemon in the active spot. Now, face down. You put the top 6 cards of your deck then at the side, face down, as prize cards. Then both players will flip their active and bench Pokemon face up, and you start the game. Now there's a lot of things you can do in your turn. So, let's go over them. I'll move the prize cards away for a bit. At the start of your turn, you draw a card. Now, I drew something against code breaking, so I'll mention supporters and stuff. So, the first thing, now, you can do any of the following actions in any order. There's not like a specific order to your turn. So, you can put a basic Pokemon, well, you can put any amount of basic Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, up to having 5 on the bench, and yeah. You can evolve your Pokemon as many times as you want, but you can only evolve each Pokemon once in a turn. So, for example, if I evolved this, let's say this was a 3-stage evolution. If I evolved it into Excalibur, I then couldn't evolve it next. Again, until next turn, but I can evolve multiple things, if that makes sense. So basically, you could evolve any of your Pokemon, but you can only evolve each one once in that turn. Now, you can also attach 1 energy per turn. So if I chose to attach to Excalibur, you can play trainer cards. You can play as many as you want, but you can only play 1 stadium and 1 supporter. Okay, yeah. So, supporters. Supporters, they have, well, let's say you play an item. I play Nest Ball, where I would then search my deck for a basic Pokemon and then place it on the bench. So if I were to look through these and I would find Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, I would then have to put it on the bench and then I'd have to shuffle the deck. But now, if I played a supporter, so if I played Siphoning EX Code Breaking, put this on this card pile. If I played Siphoning EX Code Breaking, I could then look for 2 cards in the deck and put them on top of the deck, which is a really good card. If you're building a deck, I highly suggest it. Now, you can only play the 1 supporter, but you can play any amount of item cards. But you can only play 1 stadium, so let's say I pick Area 0 under depth, I put it into play, which would mean either player can use it, and it would give extra bench spaces if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, so that's useful. And yeah. Now, you can retreat 1 Pokemon per turn. So, you can retreat your Pokemon if it has the energy for it. So, let's say it does. I would retreat that, and I'd move it to the bench. But I could not retreat. I can't then retreat Teal Mask Ogerpon. Now, you can use abilities as many as you want. Most of them will say once per turn. For example, Teal Dance on Teal Mask Ogerpon EX. This one is once during your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy card from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attach energy to a Pokemon, this way draw a card. Now, because of this ability, it means that it allows you to attach a second energy, provided that that second energy is through Teal Dance, and that's useful. Now, to end your turn, you attack. If, for example, if I use Myriad Leaf Shower with Teal Mask Ogerpon, once I've done damage, the turn is over. Once all the effects are done, that's the end of the turn. If you can't attack, you can pass. Now, I think it's just going into detail on attack and end your turn. Now, weakness and resistance is something you need to look out for. For example, let's say this was attacked by a fire type. There's a weakness there, so you have to check that and see it would do 2 times the damage. Quite simple. So, that's fine. Now, resistance is another thing, but I have to find a card that has resistance. Here we go. So this has a resistance to fighting, which would mean it would take, because of that minus 30, it would take 30 less damage, and that's fine. Don't apply weakness and resistance for benched Pokemon though. If they take damage, it isn't affected by weakness or resistance. Now you put damage counters or damage dice, depending on which one you use, on your active Pokemon or your opponent's active Pokemon. So, for example, if I just take out my damage dice, so I'll have to go into these. I'll take out this for any coin flips. But let's say the Ho-Oh takes 100 damage. Now I would then put this side up. But if you're just buying like a pre-built deck, or if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can just use damage counters, which I don't have any on hand, I don't think. No, I think I got rid of them all. But they're just like little counters that will have an amount of damage. For example, 10. Anytime an attack mentions put a certain amount of damage counters on, it means 10 damage. Usually, I think. So, yeah, that's all you need to do. Now, after you attack, as I said, your turn's over. There are some things that happen between turns, though, and that's special conditions. That's where these come in. Now, there are 4 special conditions. Poisoned, paralyzed, confused, burned, and asleep. I see. So, let's start with poisoned, because it's in that order. So, poisoned. If a poisoned Pokemon takes damage between turns, when a Pokemon is poisoned, put a poison marker on it. So one of these, or it's sometimes a skull and crossbones. It really depends. Oh, it's just a skull. Sorry, but it really depends on which one you got. So you'll place it on there, and between turns, because between turns you have Pokemon Checkup, I think that's what it is. You put a damage counter, so 10 damage on it. That's not too bad. Next we'll go for burned. A burned Pokemon also takes damage between turns, but it might heal on its own. This is a damage counter that's commonly appears, but sometimes it's like little bandages or plasters. So, in between turns, you put 2 damage counters on a burnt Pokemon. But when it takes damage, if it takes damage from burn, you flip a coin. And if it's heads, it removes the special condition. Now, asleep. A Pokemon that is asleep, you turn it counterclockwise, so this way. Now, if a Pokemon is asleep, it can't attack or retreat. Between the turns, flip a coin. If you flip heads, the Pokemon wakes up. But if it's tails, it just stays asleep. Now, next, we'll do paralyzed, and we'll do confused. Okay. Paralyzed. You turn it clockwise to show that it's paralyzed. If Pokemon is paralyzed, it can't attack or retreat, and you return and you remove it between turns. So, remove the special condition paralyzed during the in-between turns step if your Pokemon was paralyzed since the beginning of your last turn. Okay. So I think it's like after a turn, yeah. Now, confusion. Confused Pokemon, you turn it upside down, so you turn the head facing towards you. If your Pokemon is confused, you must flip a coin before attacking with it. If heads, the attack works normally. If tails, the attack doesn't happen. And you put 3 damage counters. So 30 damage on your confused Pokemon. Not too bad. Now, what? Oh, and to remove special conditions. Evolving a Pokemon or moving it to the bench removes all special conditions. The only special conditions that prevent Pokemon from retreating are asleep and paralyzed. Since asleep, confused, and paralyzed, or rotate the Pokemon card. Whichever one happened last, the Pokemon is the only one still affect. Poisoned and burned use markers, those don't affect other special conditions, which means that a Pokemon can be burned, paralyzed, and can be poisoned at the same time. So, yeah. I think that should be it for just the oh wait, there's also Pokemon EX. Now, Pokemon EX are powerful Pokemon. They have more HP, they have stronger attacks, and if a Pokemon has a rule box, just in general, something like this, then you have to draw 2 prize cards. Well, opponent has to draw 2 prize cards if it's knocked out. So yeah, just look out for that. I think that's it. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. Yeah, and then yeah, I'll talk about more complex stuff later on. So yeah, that should be it for now. Good.